I'm still in a Detroit Lions mode.
Right?
I can't shake it.
Yeah.
And I now, content-wise, I was rooting for the Lions because the Lions going to the Super Bowl. I mean, this Super Bowl matchup is strange that you have two teams who should be there. They've been there before, and it doesn't have as much buzz yet. So I'm still feeling that Lions fallout the day after, or the day after the day after. It's still painful just because they had it. And now Dan Campbell, he's going to be answering this question or these questions probably the rest of his career. If he doesn't get back to an NFC title game or doesn't get to a Super Bowl, he'll be answering these questions probably the rest of his career. In fact, he was still answering those questions yesterday.
You know, look, it's hard to lose that way, but I'm proud of those guys in there. Proud of the staff, and we did some really good things this year, and ultimately we improved, which was the name of the game. I think unfortunately you got to live that to really understand why you're in this business, and that's what it's for: playoffs, NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, and now your eyes are open. And our guys' eyes are open, and this should be the ultimate motivation to push forward, and it will be for us. It will be. So we'll learn and move on.
It's weird to hear Dan Campbell and not hear that passion, that excitement, ready to bite your kneecaps, that this is hit hard. And he's going to answer these questions about going forward on fourth down, not going forward on fourth down. And I certainly understand it. And yesterday I was thinking about this most of the afternoon. And that is, what do I want my coach to do? We have an identity, and I said yesterday, it felt like Dan Campbell was coaching against Dan Campbell in these situations. Like, this is who we are. This is who I am. Was it the smart decision? Well, we can look at the end result and say, no, it wasn't. But in the moment, I understood it. I also think, and talking to a former defensive coordinator yesterday afternoon, and he said, nobody's really talking about the Lions felt like we can't hold the Niners back anymore, that the Niners were getting the ball and scoring. And I think Dan Campbell may have felt a little bit of that, you're up 24-7. Everything's good until, And that's what, this former coach told me. It was the moment where there's no turning back. Now you have to score every single time. And maybe that's why he went for it on those 2 fourth downs in the second half. The one at the end of the half, if that's your identity, then go for it. I understand it. You want to take the points, but if that's your identity, that's your knockout blow, then you're up 28-7. I get that. The second half, I think you got to factor in Detroit's defense was not slowing down the Niners. Not at all. Yeah, Paulie.
I think I have a poll off this. If I feel bad for the Lions for a couple reasons, but I actually think it's worse their loss on Sunday than if they made the Super Bowl and lost. Because you get to the Super Bowl, you're in it, you get 2 weeks, you're the belle of the ball. All of America's talking about Goff and Amon-Ra for 2 weeks. Yeah. Your town is alive. You get 2 weeks, it's like a pre-parade, and you missed on that opportunity. Like, remember the Vikings a couple years ago? They were going to host the Super Bowl and play in the Super Bowl. And even if they would have lost it, that 2 weeks would have been magical in the town of Minneapolis. And in Detroit, they missed out on that part of it. And I think it's actually worse not making it than making it losing.
Yeah, because then everybody talks about you for 2 weeks, and then they do features on your city, and then they talk about revitalizing downtown Detroit, and then they have features on Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson and Wayne Fonts, or, well, maybe not Wayne Fonts, but, they look at the flavor of your city. And we won't get that. I mean, selfishly, I wanted Buffalo to play Detroit in the Super Bowl. I thought that would have been a clash of the two best storylines there. Yes, Todd.
On the flip side, if you're a Lions fan, do you walk around with your NFC Champions hat and sweatshirt if you were to lose the Super Bowl?
Up to the individual. I mean, I would be proud that we got there. Of course, as soon as you wear it, then people are going to say the same thing. Do you think that Coach Campbell should have gone for it on fourth down? That's going to be the question. It's like the Falcons in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. We kept wondering, why are you trying to move the ball closer, kick the field goal? You're going to win the Super Bowl. And then they dropped back to pass. And that was Dan Quinn, by the way, who was the head coach. I know Kyle Shanahan gets criticized. Dan Quinn was how many times does the offensive coordinator get held more responsible than a head coach in a big game like that? But that happened in Atlanta. Yes, Seton.
There's just something so tough about the season's not over for everybody, but it is for you.
Yeah.
And especially when you're on sort of like a magical ride like that, if you want to call it. It's as close to a Cinderella story as you can kind of get in the NFL. But it's not over for everybody because they're still going to play next week, but you guys are out. Man, is that tough.
And you're going to watch, or you're going to try to watch, and it's going to be tough because let's say the Niners win the Super Bowl. I mean, that makes it even worse because you're going to go, God, we had those guys on the ropes. We could have won that easily. And you're still going to be asking questions in the offseason. Also, one other thing that Dan Campbell said that really stood out is he said, I don't know if we'll ever get back here. And I think it was a moment of honesty of, if you would have said to the Eagles, hey, you guys are going to get back here next year. Well, they didn't. Here's Dan Campbell.
It's a lesson learned. And look, I told those guys, this may have been our only shot. Do I think that? No. Do I believe that? No. However, I know how hard it is to get here. I'm well aware. And it's going to be twice as hard to get back to this point next year than it was this year.
It is. Because we just assume. And, the poster child for this was Dan Marino, Miami Dolphins, second year in the league, playing the Niners in the Super Bowl. They get blown out. We're like, Dan Marino and the Dolphins, they're going to get back. Yes, Marv.
Even Aaron Rodgers, when he won young, he's winning 3-4 more of these.
Yeah. It's so tricky in the NFL because of your scheduling. If where you finish, your schedule's harder. What divisions are you playing the following season? A lot has to go your way. What if you lose your coordinators like the Eagles did? They lost both their coordinators last year, and they paid the price this year. What if Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Lions, gets the Commander's job? So there's a lot of things that can happen in the offseason or going into next season. You're not surprising anybody. Everybody's going to expect you to be great. Not, wow, that's a cute story. Oh, look at the Lions. Man, okay. I like the Lions. They're fun to watch. I don't know how good they are, but they're fun to watch. And then all of a sudden, here they are on the doorstep of the Super Bowl. And when I first started this at ESPN, when I became a full-time sportscaster, I put my fandom to the side. Now, I root for stories because I didn't think it was fair that I grew up in Cincinnati and I might say something about the Pirates or the Steelers or the Browns and then have somebody read into that. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be unbiased. But the one thing that you give up in a situation like that is these situations here, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I don't experience that. The pain, because it means so much. You care so much. That's why it hurts so much. And having that highest of highs, when, Paulie's Cubs won the World Series, when the Red Sox won the World Series, when you see these moments and you go, that's why we're sports fans. And I do miss that. I do miss the pain, as strange as that's going to sound. And this is as close as I felt that yesterday and today with the Lions, because this is secondhand pain. It's not even firsthand pain, but it's understanding what it means to a city, to a state, to a franchise. And that's what you root for. You're rooting for that kind of story because you can tell that story for a long time. So I'm still feeling that Lions fallout the day after, or the day after the day after. It's still painful just because they had it. And now Dan Campbell, he's going to be answering this question or these questions probably the rest of his career. If he doesn't get back to an NFC title game or doesn't get to a Super Bowl, he'll be answering these questions probably the rest of his career. This is hit hard. And he's going to answer these questions about going forward on fourth down, not going forward on fourth down. What do I want my coach to do? We have an identity. And I said yesterday, it felt like Dan Campbell was coaching against Dan Campbell in these situations. Like, this is who we are. This is who I am. Was it the smart decision? Well, we can look at the end result and say, no, it wasn't. But in the moment, I understood it.